أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So we'll quickly start with our quiz questions like we normally do. So I think we got to the point where we were discussing some characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ, and before that we were talking about how he was taken to be nursed in the desert. We talked about his, the women who nursed him and a bit of that story. All right, so when he's returned to his mother, he's about 2 years old. What happens next? At what age does he lose his mother?
6.
At the age of 6. So now he doesn't have a mother or a father. So who looks after him?
Ages.
His name is Abdul
He
Muttalib.
died when he was 8.
So Abdul Muttalib takes charge of him and he looks after him until the Prophet ﷺ turns 8, and then after 2 years Abdul Muttalib passes away. Now who looks after him? Abu Talib, who is his uncle, his paternal uncle, right? What we call chacha, right? And Abu Talib looks after him until when?
Until the wedding when he died.
Yes, how many years is that?
After migration. How many years?
No, not after migration, before migration. Yes. After Wahi, but before migration. Yes, around that age. Okay, it's not really. It's more than 44. He's almost 50. Okay, when Abu Talib dies. So now Abu Talib. This is important for you. Okay, that's why this is a revision question, but it's very important for you to keep these facts and figures in mind. Okay, this is like a history lesson. So he's looked after by Abu Talib from the age of 8 until the age of approximately 50. How many years is that?
42.
Yes, it's over 40 years that he's looked after by one particular person, okay? So now obviously when he crosses a certain age, he's not looked after as a child, okay? So in his childhood, he's looked after by Abu Talib as a father would, like to make sure he's fed and he's looked, he's clean, he's clothed, etc. But afterwards, his looking after changes into more like protection. Yes. So because remember we said that once Islam comes into the picture, now everybody needs like a sponsor or a kafil, right? Otherwise you're not safe. Otherwise you're going to be attacked and beaten up. So he's basically like the Prophet ﷺ's sponsor and protector, like that. Of course, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. All right. Another revision question. The Prophet ﷺ remains married to Khadija radiyallahu anha until the age of 50, right? Yes. So from the age of 25 to 50, he's married to her only. He does not have any other wife. When she passes away, for about 2 to 3 years, he stays single, and then if you do the maths, so he passes away at the age of 63 approximately, and he remarries at the age of about 53. So in a span of 10 years, he has like about 11 or 12 marriages, right? He marries because he has a total of 13 wives. Yeah. So okay, can we name his wives? Maria, Zainab, Sauda, we already said. Juwairiya, Maimuna, Safiya, Salama, another Zainab. There are 2 Zainabs here. We already mentioned Aisha. Come on, guys. There is no, we've mentioned 9 so far.
Hafsa?
Yes, Hafsa.
Hafsa, someone mentioned.
No, 10.
Safiya.
So,
Habiba.
yeah, Habiba.
No. You're not 13. No, then Khadija.
Khadija.
12.
We didn't mention Khadija. We hadn't mentioned Khadija.
No, she didn't count.
We hadn't mentioned Khadija. Now we've mentioned her. Now we've got 12. Okay. So that's the end of your revision questions. I will check on this inshallah, but I don't know. I had 13 in mind, but okay. We numbered 12 and we counted 12 now. Okay. All right. We mentioned her. Yes. Yeah. We mentioned her. Somebody at the back mentioned her. Yeah. Okay.
Why did I read sometimes she wasn't really considered a wife?
Initially she was a slave, and then
She wasn't really considered.
yeah. As far as I know, she did. Yeah. She's known as Maria Qubtiya. Yeah. And Maymuna and Juwairiya, their names were Barra, and the Prophet ﷺ, he changed their name and he gave them this name, which is why I think that these names are special, because he chose. Yeah. So he chose these names for them, Maymuna and Juwairiya. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is, if just briefly to remind you, we've talked about some major events until now, right? We talked about the conversion of Umar and Hamza, which are 2 major things for you to remember. We talked about some of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, like splitting the moon, the document on the Kaaba, the boycott document getting eaten up, the wrestling match, and remember a big miracle that we talked about last time? Yeah, I already mentioned that. Something else? The last thing that we talked about before we left.
No, the same day. The Romans.
غُلِبَتِ الرُّوم. Yeah, you know the verses of غُلِبَتِ الرُّوم, and we said how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the Muslims will be happy on that day, and we talked about they were not excited about Rome beating the Persians, but they were happy about Badr. They won Badr on that day. Okay. One of the major events we talked about was the boycott. Okay, and we said we don't know exactly how long it lasted, but it lasted somewhere between 1.5 to 2 years, maybe a bit more than that. But basically, the boycott took place about 2 to 3 years before Hijrah, before the Prophet ﷺ migrates to Medina. So something like that, 1.5 to 2 and a bit years. Okay. I will give you some more details about the boycott a little later on. But first, I want to just tell you that it's gone out of my head now. I'm not feeling well today, and I'm just constantly forgetting things that I wanted to tell you. Anyway, okay, if it comes back to me, I'll tell you. Okay, so the boycott lasts about approximately this period of time. And then when the boycott ends, Abu Talib and Banu Hashim, the whole of Banu Hashim who were being boycotted, they moved back to Makkah. And soon after they moved back to Makkah, literally some people said 5 weeks, some people said 6 weeks later, Abu Talib becomes really unwell, and he becomes really ill, and he becomes bedridden, and he is basically on his deathbed. And he's led a full life. He's obviously very old now, because remember the Prophet ﷺ is about 50, so he's obviously at least 20 years older, if not more, right? So he must be in his 70s, or even between 70s and 80s. All right. So now what we're talking about today is something called the year of grief, or Amul Huzn. Okay. And there are 3 main events that take place in this year, and they only take place in the span of 2 months. All the things that happen, they happen within 2 months. but they are so serious and they are so severe that the impact that they have on the Prophet ﷺ is so strong that the whole year is called Amul Hazan. It's called the year of grief just because of these events. And they happen back to back. So that makes it even more difficult. Yeah, I mean, imagine if somebody's going through a hard time, but you get a bit of a gap and then something else goes wrong and then you get a bit of relief then. But imagine if there is not much relief. It's like bang, 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 you know. It shakes you up even more than it would if you had a bit of a gap. So the first thing is that Abu Talib is on his deathbed, and what happens is that I'm going to read out a hadith to you because this event is documented in a hadith. These are the last moments of Abu Talib. Oh yes, I remember now what I was going to tell you, alhamdulillah. One of the things, I still can't remember the other thing, but at least I remember one of them. Events in Makkah during the Meccan period, they are very difficult to put into chronological order, okay, because things were very poorly documented at that time. The Medina period is really well documented. So you know when Badr took place, you know when Uhud took place, you know when Ahzab took place. I mean, most of Medina is Ghazawat, okay? But the events in Makkah, they are scattered. We know very few events that actually happened, and we're trying our best to put them in the right order, but we can't be 100% sure that did this happen first or did this happen later on, okay? So for example, you know, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but the Quraysh, they come to Abu Talib and they say to him that tell your nephew to leave us alone and to stop preaching, otherwise, you know, war is going to break out. So now some people put this event at the beginning of when the revelation started coming, and some people put it at this point when he's on his deathbed, that they came to him and they said that, look, you know, now you're about to die, now you better do something and sort this out, otherwise once you're gone there's going to be a big fight, because, you know, we're getting really angry and agitated with his behavior and he's not willing to stop. So Allahu Alam, it seems like it might have happened at this time, more likely than at the beginning, okay, because now they're thinking, they're thinking that, you know, this is the last chance, let's try one more time to deter him from preaching Islam. So Abu Talib, you know, says, and of course there's a lot of pressure on him, so he says to the Prophet ﷺ, he says that, look, my people have surrounded me and they are asking you to leave them alone. So he says, do whatever you want to do, just don't interfere with them. So interfere with them in the sense, don't preach to them, don't ridicule their gods or their worship, and you know, don't call them to Islam, etc. So the Prophet ﷺ says that I will leave them if they can give me one statement. So he says, just like they have a condition, because they say that as long as he leaves us, we'll leave him and let him do what he wants to do. He says, well, I have one condition, and if they can say that one statement, I will leave them. He said, I promise, you know, they can have the Arab and the Ajam, I will leave them alone if they can just do this one thing. So Abu Jahl says, he says, leave alone one statement, we'll give you 10 statements, just leave us alone. And he says that if you just say, La ilaha illallah, I will leave you alone. Of course, they're not willing to do that. That's what the whole fight is about. So yeah, chronological order is a bit difficult, okay? Like, for example, you know the story where the Prophet ﷺ, he's in sujood and they throw the entrails of the camel on him? This story as well, it's difficult to tell, you know, did it happen at that time? Did it happen at this time? It's sort of like if I went to the cinema and I watched a movie and I come back and I say, oh, this happened in the movie. Oh, and you know, that happened as well. And that happened. Now, I'm not telling you in which order it's happened. I'm just telling you whatever I can remember, you know, bits of the movie that I can remember. So I'll say, oh, this happened. Now, some of these parts are at the beginning, some are in the middle, some are in the end, but I've mixed them all up and I'm telling you. So if you were to repeat them, you're going to have to use your judgment and say, well, if this happened here, it must have been at the beginning of the story because it wouldn't make sense. So this is what we're doing with the Meccan period. So we've got lots of different dotted narrations and we're trying to arrange them. okay, to the best of our ability. So, in Sahih Bukhari, it says, and this is important, very, very important, because some people amongst the Shia and the Sufis believe that Abu Talib was a Muslim when he died. Okay, so it's very important to understand that he was not. When the time of the death of Abu Talib approached, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to him and found Abu Jahl bin Hisham and Abdullah bin Abi Umayyah bin al-Mughira by his side. It's amazing that whenever you go in Seerah, you find Abu Jahl trying to stop the good as much as he can, as much as he possibly can. And this man is always there trying to, trying to get in between any good that can happen. And here he is again. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, so the story I just told you about when they were putting pressure on Abu Talib, and he says to his nephew that leave them alone, and he says, well, I just want this one statement, and they say no. It seems like at that point he says to Abu Talib that you say this statement so that I can intercede for you, okay, as a continuation of that story. And then there's pressure on Abu Talib. But here's another narration. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Abu Talib, while Abu Jahl and Abu Umayyah are by his side, "O uncle, say none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, a sentence with which I shall be a witness for you before Allah, so I can argue with Allah for you." Abu Jahl and Abdullah bin Abi Umayyah said, "O Abu Talib, are you going to denounce the religion of Abdul Muttalib?" Now, again, you have to keep going back to our initial stories. Abdul Muttalib, he is a legend, okay? Remember, he's the one who had the dream of Zamzam, and this man, he has, you could say, he has marked history, right? There's nobody who's as commemorated and as known to be as noble as Abdul Muttalib, right? And Abu Talib is sort of carrying on his legacy, right? He is the continuation of Abdul Muttalib, so to speak. And for him, the most important thing for him is to hold high this banner that we are the clan of Abdul Muttalib. So it's basically tribalism, and it is jahl, but that is the thing that really, you could say, causes him the greatest loss, right? Because that's the reason he's not able to say the shahada, to say la ilaha illallah. Because saying la ilaha illallah means he left the religion of his grandfather, Abu Talib, of his father, Abdul Muttalib, and he took the religion of his nephew, Muhammad. And that is a huge, you could say, like a calamity or a tragedy in terms of tribalism, right? That how could you let your tribe down? So Abu Jahl and Abdullah bin Umayyah said, "O Abu Talib, are you going to denounce the religion of Abdul Muttalib?" And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam kept on inviting Abu Talib to say it. Say la ilaha illallah. Say la ilaha illallah. While they kept on repeating their statement, as in Abu Jahl and Abu Umayyah kept saying, are you going to leave the religion of your forefathers? Are you going to leave the religion of Abdul Muttalib? Until Abu Talib said his last statement that he was on the religion of Abdul Muttalib and refused to say la ilaha illallah. And it seems like during this meeting, the Prophet ﷺ, he kept encouraging him, and then eventually the Prophet ﷺ goes back to his room, and then Ali came to him and said to him that he used a word, because this is the father of Ali, right? And he said that your ignorant uncle has passed away, because he had a lot of anger inside that naturally, he wanted his father to be on Islam. He wanted to be proud and be able to say that my father became a Muslim. And he could not do that. So he comes and he says to him that your ignorant uncle has passed away. And then the Prophet ﷺ said to him that go and bury him and don't go anywhere else, come straight back. And so he says that how can I bury him? He died as a mushrik, as a kafir. And he says that doesn't matter, you go and bury him. And so somebody's calling. Yeah, that seems to be a weak narration. It's a very famous narration. Yeah, it seems to be a weak narration. Sorry? I heard a man.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, because I heard somebody's voice on this side, but he doesn't need to lock the place or anything. We're okay, yeah, okay.
She allowed ginger cans.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
Ginger.
It's okay. Let her learn a lesson, not to ask for candy again.
It's for coffee.
Yeah, but isn't it strong?
Right. Let's try it. If you don't like it, get all scared. But it suits the throat and the
Okay. Oh yeah, because she's coughing. Yeah. Yeah, we've all been, all had a really bad flu. Oh, there is somebody here. Okay. All right, no problem. We'll go. You can go home now before the guy locks the door and leaves. Okay.
Why bury him?
Yes. So he said that go and bury him and then come back to me. And when Ali radiallahu anhu does that and he comes back to him, then the Prophet ﷺ, he makes a lot of dua for him and he gives him a lot of comfort. And he says words to him which Ali radiallahu anhu says that I would not exchange them for the entire world and what it contains. So the Prophet ﷺ, he gives him a lot of, because imagine, his father has just passed away and he hasn't passed away on Islam. So he needs that consolation because, when we lose somebody, at least we have this consolation that inshallah, Allah will reunite us again, right? We will see them again in Jannah, or inshallah, we will be near Allah and we will meet our beloved ones. But to lose somebody and to know that that's it, now you are never going to see them or be with them again, that can be a very, very difficult and disturbing thing to have to deal with. And now, why is this so big on the Prophet ﷺ? Can you imagine being raised by somebody for 40 plus years of your life? And not only to lose them, but again, he's in a very similar situation to Ali radiallahu anhu. To lose them and to know that that's it. They didn't enter Islam. So it's your tie with them has literally been cut off now. You will never see them again. And sometimes I think it's difficult for us to understand these things, but this Ramadan, something happened with me, and I think I really understood this concept really well. It was a small thing, it was not a big thing, but you can multiply it many times to understand what this is like. So we were going to this masjid where the imam of that masjid is really, really famous and popular, mashallah. So the masjid gets really full. And the masjid is really small. So the masjid can maybe accommodate 300 to 400 or maybe 500 at the most people. And the people who turn up to this masjid are in their thousands. There must be 5,000 people who turn up at this masjid. So you can imagine, after the elite few who have got in, everybody else is stuck outside. And Ramadan is still not in a very cold climate. It's in warm weather now, right? So obviously everybody's dying to get inside the masjid and pray in the air-conditioned masjid. So what happened was that I had gone with Maryam, and both of us went in, and of course, even if you get there early, I think people usually leave after Asr to get there, to get inside and pray inside. So, even if you get there at Maghrib time or something, it's not good enough. So we got there early, but it was already full, so we prayed outside. And then it seemed like some negotiation had been taking place, and they had agreed to form a queue and let some more sisters in. I don't know how, because the masjid was full and it's really small and tight, but anyway, they had agreed to do that. And once you enter, they give you a card. And so when you come out of the masjid, you can only go back in if you have the card. So it's that strict, and we're talking about like top level security of being able to get into this masjid. Nasir al-Qitami. Okay, so we stood in this queue in the hope that we're going to get inside, and eventually these gates opened, right? Like the gates of Jannah, they're like these big gates. So they opened, and the women who were in the queue, they started to go in. Now we were right at the end of the queue, and I thought, there's no way we're going to get in, but anyway, let's try, So we were going in, and I got in, and they shut the gate, and I saw Maryam's face, and the gate shut. And for a second, my heart just sort of like skipped a beat, because I looked at the woman at the door, and I said to her, I said, my daughter's outside. She said, well, I'm sorry. She said, the gates are closed now. And she said, she can't come in. I said, yeah, but I said that we were in the queue together. And she said, well, sorry, she can't come inside. I said, well, I wanted to pray with her. She said, well, you can go out, but she can't come inside. So I went upstairs, and I was doing my salah and everything, but I was thinking about a lot of things. I was thinking, what if on the day of judgment, the gates shut, and one of our beloved ones is outside the gate, and they're not able to come in? Or, because one of the enjoyments, one of the blessings of Jannah is you want to be with all your beloved ones, right? You make dua that, Allah reunite me with all the people that I love. The people you love in the dunya, you want to be with them in the akhirah. It's sort of like you feel like almost sad, or like something's been taken away from you if you can't have that, or if you can't be with somebody that you love, right? So, sometimes these experiences happen because it's to teach you something, it's to tell you something, it's to teach you a much deeper lesson. So, I did that whole Taraweeh, but, I really enjoyed the salah and everything, but that enjoyment was not there that I would have had if my daughter had been next to me, if she had been by my side. And so, of course, we all make dua that, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunites us with... Sorry?
And Miriam must have
yeah.
when you went.
Well, I went outside. I went back outside. So they gave me this card, and I said to them, can I at least go and speak to her and tell her what's going on? So they said, all right. So I went outside, and I said to her, that, look, if you want, I'll come outside and we'll just pray together. She said, no. She said, please, you pray inside. She said, it's okay, I'll just pray here. She said, tomorrow we'll come after Asr. So we did that. But I'm just saying that the main point that I'm trying to make here is that this is a very, very, very heavy thing and difficult thing on the Prophet ﷺ, because Abu Talib was one of the most beloved people to the Prophet ﷺ. Through thick and through thin, this man stood by his side. He was his protection. He was his guardian. He made sure that no one touched the Prophet ﷺ. He made sure that no harm came near the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So, can you imagine how beloved this person was to the Prophet ﷺ, and what he went through, or what kind of pain he suffered to know that he was not able to convince his uncle to say the Shahada. And there are a lot of lessons that we can draw from the death of Abu Talib.
Can I interrupt just one? Because I know of a new Muslim whose brother died, Christian. She's the only new Muslim in the family, and even till today, it's been a year and a half, her brother has died. She still cries about him, and it just happened. She was crying in front of me, and I said, "Pray for your brother." And the answer comes, "I cannot pray for her." What would she do? Because she's really in a very sad state. She's going into depression because of this, and she tells me he will not be there in Jannah. I'm never going to see him again. I don't know what words to tell her.
Yeah. So maybe you can learn some lessons from this story, inshallah, and maybe you can share that with her. So when this happens, and obviously now the Prophet ﷺ knows that Abu Talib has died on kufr, not on Islam, he said, "I will keep on asking Allah's forgiveness for you unless I am forbidden by Allah to do so." Now, prophets generally, they don't do anything and they don't stop anything without the permission or the order of Allah. So Allah tells them what to do and Allah tells them what not to do. But this is something that the Prophet ﷺ feels so emotionally strongly about that he just initiates this statement himself. He says, "I will do this unless Allah tells me not to." And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the verse concerning him, and he says that it is not fitting for the prophet and those who believe that they should invoke Allah for forgiveness for pagans, even though they be of kin, after it has become clear to them that they are companions of the fire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very politely, very kindly, very gently reveals to the Prophet ﷺ through this ayah that it is not permissible for him to make dua for Abu Talib. And also it is said that Abdullah bin al-Harith bin Nawfal narrated that Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, "O Messenger of Allah, did you benefit Abu Talib with anything, as he used to protect and take care of you and used to become very angry for you?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Yes, he is in a shallow place of fire, but for me, or had it not been for me, he would have been in the lowest part of the fire." So he is in the, you could say, in the outskirts of the hellfire because of the Prophet ﷺ's shafa'ah. And had it not been for the shafa'ah or the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ, he would have been in ad-dark al-asfali min an-nar. He would have been in the depths of the fire. So this is how the Prophet ﷺ benefited Abu Talib.
So Abu Talib, instead of being
in the depth, he's in the just in the outskirts. Like, you can imagine that's probably the safest part of the fire, is the outermost part. The deeper and the inner you go, the more in the center you go, the hotter and the worse it is.
So basically, for us reverts, we can't pray for our next of kin.
No, you cannot pray for them. You cannot pray for forgiveness for them.
But you can make dua for them.
You can't make any dua for them. You can only make dua while they're alive for their hidayah. But once they pass away, you can't even make dua for their hidayah.
If you think about it, it is in the Surah Tawbah, that is not on Nabi and other mu'mineen.
Yeah.
To say
Yeah. Let me just pull that out.
This is the ayah.
This what I just read out to you is a verse in the Quran. Let me read out the Arabic to you if I can find it.
Where is that?
I'll tell you. It is in Surah Tawbah. It's verse number 9. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ما كان للنبي والذين آمنوا أن يستغفروا للمشركين ولو كانوا أولي قربى من بعد ما تبين لهم أنهم أصحاب الجحيم. That once they know that these are people of the fire, it is not permissible for you to pray for forgiveness for them.
I have one of my children's childminder was Christian. I was very, very attached to her, and we also make dua for her. So can we not just appreciate their good deeds and they will just get some? She was a very, very nice person. So it's just.
So you see, whatever she had to get for being nice, she has got it in the dunya, because that is the rule for the kuffar, for the mushrikeen, that because you have disbelievers who are good people, like you have people like, high profile figures like Lady Diana, she's always trying to do good things for people.
Mother Teresa.
Yeah, Mother Teresa. Various other people, if you think about it, there are people who are, they're disbelievers, but they try to do good for the people. So Allah gives them the reward for that good in the dunya, but there's nothing for them in the akhirah.
It's a mirage, it is being said, their good deeds, these disbelievers who are good,
Yeah.
their deeds are like mirage.
Yeah,
They don't
so
benefit
whatever they get, they will get it here. But what they have done is the worst crime or the worst sin is shirk. To associate partners and to negate tawheed, to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sons or daughters or helpers or anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a really, really weak analogy, but I don't know if it will help you understand. But for example, let's say Benazir makes a PowerPoint presentation on some topic, okay? And she works day and night, and she, puts in all her effort and everything, and it's solely her work and her effort, okay? And then she prepares it and she gives it to me, and then I take it somewhere and I present it as if it's mine and I did it and I wrote it and I made it, right? Why do you have all these copyrights today? Because people want recognition for what they have done, right? They don't want somebody else to get the praise for what they have done. I am not saying in any way, shape or form, this is a really bad and weak analogy, but I'm just trying to explain the concept of shirk. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave you your life. He made you what you are. He created the heavens and the earth. And now we say that it was actually this one or that one, or somebody helped him, or somebody... How insulting is that? I mean, when Benazir finds out that Sister Fakhrun Nisa has gone and presented this, she has not even mentioned Benazir's name, and everybody in that hall has clapped, and I've received an award, and there was no mention of her, whereas she's the one who put in all the work. How do you think she is going to feel? Do you think she's going to feel love for me? Do you think she's going to feel happy?
I will find she'll make dua for you. She'll make dua for you.
Yeah, okay, maybe she will make dua for me, but I mean, I'm just trying to like give you an analogy, just to explain to you that this is something very upsetting to anybody, right? After you put in all the work and effort, and somebody just takes all the credit and just walks off, as if you had nothing to do with it,
This is the life of us. We take the PowerPoint from the
Yeah.
internet, we present it as
Yeah. So you guys are like heavily involved in the depths of plagiarism, but
Copy and paste.
yeah. So yeah, that's just like a weak analogy. But this is the worst thing that anybody could do, is to not acknowledge and recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's oneness. That He is our sole and only creator. Now, Abu Talib, on his deathbed, he says to the Prophet ﷺ that were it not for these people to say about me after my death that Abu Talib became scared towards the end, and he left the religion of his forefathers, and he accepted Islam at the end out of fear. He said, had it not been for those kind of statements, he said, I would have done it. And he even said to him, he said, I would have done it to make you happy. This is how much he loved the Prophet ﷺ, that he would have done it just to put a smile on the Prophet ﷺ's face, just to make him happy. He would have said it. But because this kind of jahl and tribalism is so deeply rooted inside them, that, the most important thing, like I said to you, was for him to hold high the banner of being a representative or an ambassador of the tribe of Abdul Muttalib. And he knew that his nephew is telling the truth. He knew that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not making this up. He knew that this is the haqq. So, now some of the lessons that we get from this. Number one, just knowing and accepting the truth is not enough. Okay, so you have some people who say that I know that the Prophet ﷺ is the messenger of Allah. I know that Allah is one. Is that enough? No, that is not enough. There has to be submission. There has to be, and there has to be, the statement, the saying of it. So you should know the 7 conditions of La ilaha illallah, right? Because those are the keys to Jannah. So it is not just enough to say it, but you must know what are the 7 conditions. And so just knowing it, just accepting it, and knowing in your heart that this is the truth, this is not enough. Okay. Number 2, we see from this that you must have good friends. You must have good companions. Because look at the kind of friends he had at the end, right? They are the ones who are sitting there and they are misguiding him. They are the ones who are prompting him and saying, don't say La ilaha illallah. Don't leave the religion of Abdul Muttalib, right?
So if those 2 weren't there, he would have said it, I guess.
Perhaps.
But
Yeah.
Allah made sure
Because
those 2 were there.
yes,
Allah
that's
prepared that those 2 were there. and
yes,
it was-
yes.
it was-
So one of the main lessons you learn from the story of Abu Talib is ilmul ghaib. We will never understand ilmul ghaib. And this is something only Allah knows, that what is the reason that Abu Talib does not accept Islam. During his life, when he is in his younger days, it is out of hikmah, and it is good that he does not become Muslim, because his protection for the Prophet ﷺ is only good enough as long as he is pagan. As long as he is a disbeliever, they accept that, okay, you're just looking after your tribesman. But if you become Muslim, now you're under as much attack as him. Now you cannot protect him anymore. So for the Prophet ﷺ's protection, it was out of the wisdom of Allah that this man remained pagan till the end. But now that he's on his deathbed, this was something as a younger person as well. I always, this and the Battle of Uhud, I always found them really difficult to swallow. That, oh my God, if this could have just been different, if he could have just said the kalima. Because he was so kind and so loving towards the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, part of the reason Islam has even got to you is because of that man's efforts in protecting his nephew. If he had not protected him and given him his support, his full support, perhaps, Islam would not have even taken off and got this far. So that's how key this individual was. But this is the wisdom and hikmah of Allah, which we do not understand. It is the qadr of Allah, which is known as the sirr of Allah. This is the secret of Allah. And this is ilmul ghaib. This is something of ghaib, something completely unknown, which we don't understand, and we will not understand. And we cannot question Allah about this. Okay, Allah can question us, but we cannot question Allah and say, why did you not let this man say his shahada? This is entirely up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything Allah does is out of his hikmah. And so Abu Talib, when I say he has the least punishment, I'm talking about the least punishment amongst the people who are permanently in hellfire. We're not talking about the punishment of Muslims who will go to the hellfire, suffer there for a while, and then they will be taken out. That is a separate punishment. This is the punishment of people who will dwell there for eternity because they died on kufr.
Seriously? So he will be in the hellfire forever?
For eternity. And so the punishment that he gets because of the Prophet ﷺ's shafa'ah is that he will have these slippers of fire which will make his blood boil. And that is the least punishment that anybody will get.
There's no way the Prophet can get him out? Is it that he can intercede for 70,000 people? Can he intercede for him?
But 70,000 people who have not committed shirk. Not if you've committed shirk. Because just the last thing he says before he dies is that I am on the millah or the deen of Abdul Muttalib. That's the last thing he says before he dies. Because these people are sitting by his side and saying, the millah of Abdul Muttalib, the millah of Abdul Muttalib, are you going to leave that? Don't leave that, don't leave that. So that's why good company is so important.
Maybe in his heart he has said that.
Exactly. Now this is the thing, you see, that even if he has said it in his heart, the fact I want you to do this next time for your homework, or as part of the quiz. I want you all to tell me one each the 7 conditions of La ilaha illallah. So then that will answer that question. Okay? So he did not fulfill the conditions of the shahada. So it's not enough to, like for example, Iblis. Iblis, he knew Allah, he worshipped Allah, he acknowledges Allah. Do you think Iblis denies Allah? Of course not. He spoke to Allah. Right? He asked Allah for his rights. But where is Iblis? What is lacking in Iblis? Submission. He is refusing to submit. Allah said prostrate, he said I will not prostrate. That refusal is what is causing the problem, and it is causing him to dwell in hellfire for eternity. So submission is very, very
So seriously,
important.
so all my siblings and all my non-Muslim relatives will all go to hellfire forever and will.
If they are not Muslim and they die on kufr. But this is again, this is one of the questions that they asked the Prophet ﷺ. So what happens is after Abu Talib passes away, okay, another quiz question. How many uncles did the Prophet ﷺ have? Paternal uncles. Anybody? No, not 7. How many paternal uncles did the Prophet ﷺ have? Very good. 11. Okay. 7 of them are said to have passed away before the Prophet ﷺ started preaching Islam. The Prophet ﷺ was very young, right? So his uncles had passed away. 4 of them were alive when he started preaching. Out of these 4, how many become Muslim? No. Yes. Hamza and who? And Abbas. Yes. Abbas is the one who asked the Prophet ﷺ, right? That what have you done for Abu Talib? He looked after you, he got angry for you, he protected you. And the Prophet ﷺ said that what I have done is that he is in the least part of the punishment. Yeah. So 2 of his uncles become Muslim. 2 of his uncles stay as disbelievers and they die on kufr. Who are they? Not Abu Jahl. Yes, everybody mixes up Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab and Abu Talib. Interestingly, the 2 who become Muslim, they have good names, Hamza and Al-Abbas. They both mean lion, or strength and power, and yeah. Does anybody know what Abu Talib's name was? His name was Abd Manaf. Okay? And that's a name with shirk in it, yeah. And does anybody know what Abu Lahab's name was? His name was Abdul Uzza. Okay, again from one of the idols. He was given the name Abu Lahab because he was extremely handsome and he had a beautiful complexion and he had a redness and he used to glow. And so it was almost like there was a fire of beauty that was inside him. So they called him Abu Lahab. And Lahab means like a flame. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions his punishment using his own name. That he does become Lahab. Like Allah says, Dhata Lahab, right? That he will be punished with the flames which are like Lahab, which are like his name. Okay. So, further to your question, Abu Lahab, he takes over, right? Abu Talib is out of the picture now. Abu Talib takes over, and now he is the chieftain, okay? Abu Lahab, okay? Because he is the next brother in line. Hamza and Abbas have become Muslim, so they're out of the picture, right? To carry the banner of the Banu Abdul Muttalib, right? The Banu Hashim. And he feels it's his duty now to give the Prophet ﷺ some protection, okay? And because, even though he hates Islam, he hates Muslims, he was the one sitting and plotting on how to kill and get rid of the Prophet ﷺ, but now he's in a position of being a chieftain. So in that role of being sort of the father of his tribe, now he feels he has to look after this man because he's a member of his tribe. So he says to the Prophet ﷺ, he says, go and do what you were doing before. What you were doing previously, go and continue whatever you were doing. And I will protect you. Now, again, guess who comes into the picture? Abu Jahl. There he is. Right? Trying to stop good as much as he can. So he comes with an idea. He's always plotting and planning and thinking. Very intelligent man. Unfortunately, his intelligence doesn't lead him to Islam, even though the Prophet ﷺ made dua that, guide one of them to Islam. He comes to Abu Lahab and he says to him, he says, you're the chief of the tribe, right? You're the chieftain of Banu Hashim. Don't do that, please, Fatima. He says, go and ask your nephew, where is Abdul Muttalib? Your father who you are representing, go and ask your nephew, where is he now? Because he knows what the Prophet ﷺ is going to say, right? Because obviously Abdul Muttalib has died when there was no Islam being preached at that time, right? So he goes to the Prophet ﷺ and he asks him, he says, where is Abdul Muttalib now? So the Prophet ﷺ very sensibly and wisely says to him, he is with his people. And he comes back and he tells Abu Jahl that this is what he said. He said he is with his people. And Abu Jahl says to him, you idiot, he's saying that he is burning in hell with all his other relatives who also died on kufr, and they are all in hell. And this is the guy you're supporting and you're looking after. So then after that day, Abu Lahab, he withdraws his protection from the Prophet ﷺ, and he says to him that I'm not going to protect somebody who says that my father, who I'm representing, is in hell. But you see, what I'm trying to say is that this is not something in our control. This is not something that we have knowledge about. This is not something that we can question. This is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed out of His wisdom, and this is part of ilmul ghaib. We can't understand why this is happening. Maybe on Yawmul Qiyamah these things will become clear to us. Maybe we will understand why this happened, or what was the reason that these people have ended up in the fire. Obviously, we know one thing for sure, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not unjust. He will not unjustly punish anybody. Do you know the extent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's justice? In the dunya, can we see the jinn? No. In Jannah, we can see the jinn, but the jinn won't be able to see us. Just to be fair,
What, we can see them?
in Jannah, we will be able to see them, but they won't be able to see us. Because in the dunya, they can see us and we can't. Yes. I'm just trying to give you, this is a very small example of Allah's justice, but I'm just saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very just. Right? Even the two goats who fought with their horns, and if one of them hurt the other unjustly, that will be settled on the day of judgment before they are turned to dust. Right? There is complete 100% utter justice. Yes, animals get turned to dust.
Interestingly, the other religions, they will also say that as well. Those who don't believe in their God or whatever also will end up in hell. That's why letting them believe in Allah. They do believe in Allah, but if you don't believe in Christ as their Savior and stuff like that, you will also end up in hell. From their perspective, us Muslims, we will also burn in hell. And for us Muslims, they will also burn in hell. That's why converting them, asking them to convert to Islam is really...
So I know it's a very disturbing thought to think for people who have lost their loved ones. No, I just have a really bad flu. No, just water will be all. Bismillah. So we know, I understand this is a very, very disturbing thought, and I've had a few revert friends who have really, really tried hard to do dawah to their parents, and for whatever reason, it did not work. And this has been probably the most difficult thing for them to deal with, that their parents died on kufr. But again, you see, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw something good in them, He would never unjustly let them die on kufr. There are so many people who at the last second, I don't know if I told you the story or I told my other group the story. Have you heard of Brother Abdurrahim Green from England? So his father was very, very sick, and he was a staunch either
Anti-Islam.
Christian or atheist. Yeah, he opposed Islam as much as he could, and his son was, he looks like Jesus. That's what people would say when he would come into Hyde Park to talk, because Abdul Rahim Green is English, and he has a blonde beard, and he has long hair up to his shoulders, and he's really tall. And he would come to, in Hyde Park, there's a speaker's corner, and you can just come and speak over there. And when he would come, people would say, "Oh, Jesus has come, Jesus has come." Because, he'd wear these long thobes and robes, and so they thought that, Anyway, so this is what he was like, and his father was a staunch, opponent of Islam. But when he was on his deathbed, you should see videos of this on YouTube. The man is so old. He must be in his 70s or 80s when he passed away. And Abdul Rahim Green had been trying all this time to make him say the Shahada.
20 years.
He says the Shahada literally hours before he dies. He says, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides these things. We don't understand them. The man, I don't know if he even prayed a single salah, if he was able to do anything other than utter the Shahada. But this is a big blessing, I think, not only on this man, but on Abdul Rahim Green, to have this sort of like satisfaction and this comfort in his heart that whatever it is, whatever he's done all his life, and also, this is something that the angel writes when you're in your mother's womb. This is not something that is decided later on. So the angel writes while you're in your mother's womb whether you will go to paradise or hell. And depending on that, towards the end of your life, your actions will become like the place that is written for you in your mother's womb. So if you're a person of paradise, you could have been sinning and been a horrible person, and right towards the end, you will suddenly change and you will start doing the actions of a person of paradise, and you will die on that. And the same opposite is true as well, that you could be really good all your life, but it was written in your mother's womb that you are a person of hellfire. And then towards the end of your life, you will change and you will start doing actions which will take you to hellfire. And this is entirely a matter of ghaib. We don't know why, we don't know how, we don't understand these things, and neither should we try to. Because remember, I said to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can't try and compare and try and understand. We are imperfect, we are incomplete. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is complete and perfect. How can the imperfect and incomplete understand the complete and the perfect? It can't. We can't comprehend these things because we are not at that level or at that stage at all. So the best thing for us is to accept it and say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His wisdom, He has done this, there must be some hikmah in this, and carry on. And inshallah, Allah will compensate us in Jannah, perhaps, in some way, where we will either not remember these things or think of these people, Allahu Alam, Maybe there will be something that will help us to, overcome this sorrow. Because there is no sorrow in Jannah, right? Once you get to Jannah, there is no sorrow, sadness or grief. So there will not be any sorrow or sadness of not having the people that you wanted with you. So maybe something will happen to get rid of that kind of feeling of loss or anything like that, inshallah. Sorry? So animals will be turned to dust. No, as far as I know, no. But you can have whatever you like in Jannah. So for example, if you want a flying horse or you want a cat or you want a rabbit or something, Allahu Alam, I suppose, you can... Allahu Alam. I mean, what I know is that, you can have whatever you want and you will want things within what you can have. So, inshallah, Allahu Alam. But animals will be turned to dust. Animals don't, go to Jannah or Nar. But the jinn do. Sorry? Allahu Alam, like I said, perhaps if this is something your heart desires and you want it.
These dogs are not well.
Sorry?
It stopped around
Oh yeah. I'm just going to try and wrap up this the death of Abu Talib. Mm. So another thing that you learn from the death of Abu Talib is that don't blindly follow anyone, even if it's your own parents. Always try to find what the truth is. Okay, don't just accept what people tell you, but try to find out what the truth is and stick to that and follow that. And another thing you learn from this is that even the Prophet ﷺ, with whatever power and ability Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, he is not able to guide the most beloved person to him. And this shows that the ultimate power and complete power is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he decides who goes to Jannah and he decides who goes to the Nar. And yes, a very important thing I was going to tell you is that when you're in your mother's womb, and I said to you that it's written whether you're going to be miserable or happy, whether you're going to go to Jannah or Nar. These things show us that never be satisfied or complacent with where you are right now. Okay, don't think that, Alhamdulillah, I pray, I fast, I attend durus, I cover, I obey my husband, I'm honest, I'm upright, I recite Quran, I'm memorizing, I'm studying Arabic, Alhamdulillah, everything is going well. Because you don't know what is going to happen right at the end. And that is what is going to matter the most. That what you die upon. It doesn't matter what you've lived upon. It doesn't matter in the sense that it does matter, as in you will die upon what you have lived upon. But what I'm trying to say is that will not determine your end. And that's why until your soul leaves your body, the game is not over. You don't know what you might do at the last minute. And that's why I remember a long time ago I told you, I gave you the example of a table which has a crack in the leg. And normally we use it and everything is fine. But one day we put lots of things on that table and it breaks, right? So the most difficult time that we will go through is our death. The sakarat of maut, that is going to be... Juwairia, can you please sit down? Otherwise I'm going to send you out to the other side, okay? Okay. Can you just sit quietly on this side? Come here. We're about to stop now. We're about to finish. Sit here, please.
What was that? Until the soul leaves your body.
Yeah, I'm saying that until the soul leaves your body, you still have a chance to go this way or that way. Okay? So I was just giving you the example of that crack in the table, and I was just saying that the most difficult thing that we will go through is sakarat of maut. When your soul is being taken out of your body, that is the most difficult and your weakest time. That is your most vulnerable time, is at that time of your death. And if you are not strong at that time, you could say anything, you could do anything. I know so many people who at the time of their death, you're trying to remind them to say La ilaha illallah, and they're saying lyrics of songs. There are people who have been known to be uttering numbers. There was this guy, I think he was an accountant, and he was constantly just doing this. And people are encouraging him to say La ilaha illallah, and he's saying 25 and 45 and 44 and 98, and this is what he's saying, just as he's dying. I know people who they have had to go through the shari'i punishment of being executed for a crime. They are being given the opportunity to say the shahada before we take your head off, right? And there was this one man, I still remember his story. This is in UAE. And the imam comes and he, gives you your last few minutes, and he talks to you and he tells you that now it's the time for you to say the shahada. And this man, he said, I am really trying hard. He said, I can't say it. He said, I'm trying, but it's just not coming out. He's not able to say it. And then they had a time at which they had to carry out this execution. So they said, well, we need to go ahead with it now. And he really tried hard. For a long time he tried, and then they said, sorry, we have to do it now. Because
even with no one prompting, even with anyone prompting.
yes, there were people saying to him, say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, say la ilaha illallah. He was trying, he said, I can't say the words, they just won't come out of my mouth. You have people who've been killed in car accidents, and some really, really bad accidents, where you have like spinal injuries, where people are in their last moments, and they're saying things, and people are trying to decipher what they're saying, because you're hopeful that they're saying Shahada. And these are all true stories, I've heard in different places. But there was this other incident where this young boy, he kept saying the name of a girl. Apparently she was his girlfriend or something like that, and he kept saying her name. The people are saying, say la ilaha illallah, and he keeps saying this whole girl's name.
And some can't say anything.
So you see, the thing is that we don't know what our end is going to be. We don't know if Allah has accepted even one sajda from us. We don't know. Maybe we are munafiq. Maybe we are hypocrites. We don't know if Allah has accepted even one action from us. And we live so confidently and comfortably, alhamdulillah, And we're more worried about others than we're worried about ourselves. But, think about this, that just because you are going in this direction, it doesn't necessarily guarantee it will end in this direction. We don't know how it will end. And we hope and we make dua for husnul khatimah. This is one of the main things you should, every single day, you should make dua for husnul khatimah, for a good end. Husnul khatimah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that your khawatim al-amal is what things will be judged by, what you do in the end. And that's why one of the du'as that you should make is that Allah make my last action my best action, right? So that you go doing the best thing that you could have done. But that's why it's so important to concentrate on resolving any weaknesses that you have now. You don't want to have that weakness at that time of difficulty. And you know the story of Imam Ahmad, right? I have mentioned it before. Yeah. So Imam Ahmad, when he was dying, his son was next to him, and his son was uttering the shahada to encourage. It's good when you're next to somebody who you know is about to go, to just keep saying Ashhadu an la ilaha. Don't say to him, say la ilaha illallah, say la ilaha, because maybe the person can't say it, and then they will feel even more depressed that I can't say it, I'm trying to say it, it's not coming out. So they say that just keep saying it so that they are hearing it, so maybe they will keep saying it as well. So don't say it, tell them to say it, but just keep uttering it. So he was saying the shahada next to his father, and Imam Ahmad, he said not yet. And then his son, I think his name is Abdullah, he got a bit worried, and he thought that maybe the angel has come to take his soul, and he's refusing to let his soul leave his body. So he asked his father, he said, why did you say not yet? And he said, because the shaitan came to me and he said, Ahmad, you have slipped out of my hands. And Imam Ahmad said, not yet, because his soul is still in his body. He can still slip. I'm telling you, until the soul leaves, you can go this way or that way. You don't know. And so Imam Ahmad said, not yet, because he's still breathing, he's still there, and the shaitan can still try something dirty with him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us firm and steadfast, and that's why we make dua for thabat, that keep us firm on this, because we are on this today, but are we going to be on it tomorrow and day after and the next week and the next month? We shouldn't get swayed, we shouldn't get lost. So make dua for thabat, and there are a few other points from the death of Abu Talib, which inshallah I will continue next time. I wanted to finish this, but if I remember any other points I'll tell you. But one last thing, that this story affirms that it is permissible to have love for somebody who is not a Muslim. Like you said, you had a governess or a nanny. She was not Muslim, but she might be a very good, very helpful person. So it is permissible to love her. You don't love the fact that she commits shirk. You don't love the fact that she doesn't worship Allah. But you love her as a person for her other characteristics. And similarly, You might be a revert Muslim, you might have parents who are not Muslim, you might have brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles. So what, are you going to hate them all? You love them. That's why you do dawah to them, because you love them. Because you love them, you want them to be with you, and that's why you do dawah to them. But this story shows us that the dawah is in your hands, but the result is not in your hands. You cannot guide those whom you love. Allah guides whom He wills. And this is something that Allah knows why and how and when. And so I'm just saying that it is permissible to love somebody who is not a Muslim. Similarly, a Muslim is allowed to marry a Christian, right? She's not a Muslim. So do you think he doesn't love his wife? He must love his wife. But yeah, he will do dawah to her. He might, try to speak to her about, worshipping Allah alone, etc. So you don't love the act of kufr, but it's okay if you love the person. And inshallah we will so we've just spoken about one of the things that hit the Prophet really hard.
You can't take as a close friends, isn't it?
Yeah, you should not take them as close friends, but again, they can be close to you in other ways. For example, they can be family members. Yeah. So they are very close to you, they are your blood. But yeah, advisors, you should not necessarily, they should not be your confidant where you tell them like your deep dark secrets, or and even if you take advice from them, you should think about it, because they are not Muslim, and so that advice is not necessarily going to be ideal. So we'll stop here, inshallah. So we've only talked about one of the things, and then we have two more things to cover. Hopefully I will try and cover both of those. Does anybody know what the other two things are that caused him grief? Death of Khadija and the third thing? No.
Migration.
No. Yeah. Well, it was sad for him to leave Makkah, but that's not the thing. It was something that happened directly as a result of the death of Abu Talib. Yeah, so what happens? Okay, we will tell you next time, inshallah. To be continued. So remember your homework for next time. I want everybody to memorize the 7 conditions. Some people say 8, some people say 9. If you want, you can do 9 conditions of Shahada. So I want you to memorize them and never forget them. Okay, the 7 conditions of La ilaha illallah. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.